So there's a very common question that Christians ask me, and that question is, what are you going to do if you're wrong? What are you going to do if you're wrong and then you die and then you're faced with God? What are you going to say to him? There's also different variations I get of this. Some of them are a question like, will you beg God for mercy? Then sometimes I get statements of, you will beg God for mercy. And the first thing I want to say, well, it's all basically the same thing, is what if you're wrong, right? That's the gist of it. First thing I'll say is, I don't think I'd beg for mercy because I know how this works. If the system is already set up in the way where I'm going to burn in hell for disbelief in a god, or because I'm a flawed human, it depends on the Christian you ask, why would I suddenly perform desperation? The system is the system. I'm damned. I'm going to burn in hell. I'm going to suffer for eternity. There is no begging for mercy, and it makes me question why Christians ask me that, because I've never heard a Christian say, oh, if you beg for mercy hard enough, God will change his mind and be like, you know what? Come in these pearly gates instead, actually. You did some real good begging there. So I don't know why they asked me that, because if I find out they're right about everything, I know that's not how it works, so there's no reason to beg. And besides that, I would be way more eager to have an actual conversation with God with so many different things. I could probably ask him an endless list of things, but I would love to say to him, or there's an endless list of things I would love to say to him or ask him. But I will share with you the top topics I would want to discuss with God. These aren't in any particular order, but these are some of my top ones as of now. Number 1, why create a world where truth requires evidence and then reward faith without it? So God apparently created the human mind, therefore he knew he created us and our reality in a way where we so often rely on evidence and proof because it's the best way for us to understand the reality around us, right? It's the way we create everything, it's the way we use to progress as a society. It's essentially everything to us. He gave us these brains that heavily rely on evidence, patterns, and consistency. And then why would you call it a virtue to believe without these things? Why design us that way in the first place if it's going to go against us when it comes to getting to the truth, the ultimate truth that is apparently the most important? And what are we getting rewarded for exactly? Going against the brains that you created to function in that specific way is very bizarre to me. It feels like you are rigging the system against us to make it harder for us to get to the conclusion that God is real. So if the ultimate goal, or like the most important thing for humans, is to get to the conclusion that God is real and have a relationship with him, why would you set it up in the way that our human brains rely on evidence and proof for essentially everything? It doesn't make any sense. If you believe God created everything, you do believe that that's how he created our brains, to understand our reality. It's really the only way we can understand our reality is by going off of things like evidence and proof. I can't really think of another way we go about understanding our reality. If you loved your creation so much, if you loved your children so much, why not make it clear with proof and evidence that you even exist in the first place? So you wanted me to go about life depending on proof for most things. For example, I take medicine because there is proof from scientists that it improves a condition or helps a symptom, whatever. I don't just have faith and take a random medicine and say, hope it fixes me, because that would be dangerous and it wouldn't really work usually unless you just happen to pick the right medicine. Instead, I take the medicine that is scientifically proven to work for most people. It's how I stay financially stable. It's another example. I don't just have faith that there's money in my bank account. I have to see that there is actually money in my account and how much there is before making a purchase or paying a bill or whatever it might be. Actually, maybe I'll just start having faith there's $1 million in my bank account and go on a little shopping spree. Example number 3, with our legal system. We are supposed to charge people with a crime when there's evidence that they actually committed the crime. We don't just have faith or that they either did or didn't do the crime. There would be a much lower chance that people actually receive justice. There would be a much lower chance that we would actually get criminals off the street. There would be way more innocent people in prison because we're just basing all of this off of faith. I fly on planes because they are proven to be able to fly in the sky. I don't get into any form of transportation and just say, well, I really have faith that this will fly, so maybe this is the best way to go about it. No, people don't typically do that. Conclusion for my first point, You gave us these brains, you gave us this reality where you know that a majority of what we do is based off of evidence and proof. And you know that, but yet you want us to do something the opposite, where we fight against the brains you gave us and believe something without any proof or evidence. That feels like a setup to me personally. Let's move on to number 2. Now, this kind of ties into number 1, but why is faith the most important thing to you? Because according to many Christians, I know this is the case in evangelicalism, belief in God is the only thing that can save you from hell. So this is the only thing that will save you from a fiery, gruesome punishment you supposedly deserve for being a flawed human being. Why is people acknowledging you the most important thing to you? Why is it not how people treat each other? Why is it not people's intentions? Why is it not the impact they have on the world and the reality you gave us? I try to imagine this in any other situation because this Christian narrative gets so normalized because it's just God. And when you talk about God, it's like anything goes. There's no standard for God because they just get to say no matter what he does, it's all good. So there actually is no standard. So I have found it helpful to kind of put this, make a comparison to a human relationship and see how insane it sounds. So I can actually see the whole picture. And I think this will help other people see the whole picture. So if a human prioritizes belief in them over how somebody treats other people, it would feel morally off in any human situation. For example, imagine you're dating somebody and they say something like, I will marry you as long as you believe in me. Any other harm you have caused up until now, up until this point, can be looked past because you gave me validation. I wonder what kind of person me personally, I would not like that. I would wonder what kind of person they are and if their morals were distorted. I would assume their morals are distorted because why is validation the most important thing to you and not how you have treated other people? It doesn't make a lot of sense. I would also view this as extremely selfish. That's your number one concern is your validation. You're not concerned with how they interact with the world, what kind of person they are at their core. And I know people will say this is different because it's God. You're comparing it to human relationships and you cannot compare him to humans. Well, go file a complaint with God because he's the one who gave me this brain and how I understand reality. And human relationships are the only thing he's given me to compare it to. He's not given me anything else. So you really can't blame me. And it's also just a thought-stopping cliche to me. I think this is said as a thought-stopping cliche of like, don't really think about what this means in actual relationships. Instead, God is good and it's fine because it's God. So you don't really need to think about it. Well, I'm going to think about it. So that's how we got here. There really is no other way for me to view it other than egotistical. It seems to be all about him and only him. And when it really comes down to it, everything else can be looked past except if you don't give him validation. And people have told me, oh, it's not about validation. But believing in him, believing in him or choosing to have a relationship with him, whatever you want to call it, that is about validation. It's not about anything else. That is about validation of something. I don't hear this and think, wow, what a selfless God. Just like if my husband constantly gave me validation, but he treated everybody else like shit or was a bad person at his core, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with him because it matters more who he is as a person. I don't care if you believe in me. I don't care if you give me all the validation in the world because it is a reflection of your character. So that's number 2. Okay, so we're at number 3. If you really wanted a relationship with me, why not show me you exist? Or even a sign that you exist.
Look! It's Jesus!
The reason I am an atheist is because I couldn't find any evidence that God existed. That is what allowed me to be comfortable with saying I'm an atheist. I didn't get hurt by anything. Nothing like crazy happened. I just looked into it in a more direct way. I tried to find answers, and I was no longer convinced he was real with the evidence and proof I was finding. And there also has been many times when I was a Christian, I used to beg God to show me he was real so I could continue to believing, because at the time it would have been easier. It would have been less strenuous on my relationships. I wouldn't have to reevaluate my entire worldview. I wouldn't have to come to the terms with the fact that, oh, I don't think there's an afterlife. All of that stuff. I wouldn't have to go through all the grieving and the anger and whatever else. I could just keep believing in him and things could just go the way they had always been going. But instead, it was crickets. Christians tell me that, and when I say that, Christians tell me that I didn't do it the right way or didn't try hard enough. First of all, how the hell would you know that, Brad? You weren't there. Second of all, I did do that. I did my best. There isn't much I can do beyond that. I'm only capable of doing my best. And if my best wasn't good enough, I think that's a God issue. I did my part by doing the best I possibly could, and that's all I could do. All he had to do was show up. All he had to do was show me that he was real or give me evidence or proof that he was real, and he couldn't even do that. A lot of times when I say this, I cannot tell you the amount of comments I've gotten from people saying, how dare you demand God to prove himself to you? How dare you ask him to show you a sign he's real? What? I'm sorry, what? They'll be like, he doesn't owe you anything. That's an insane thing to say. I think that's an insane thing to say. If someone wants a relationship with you, showing me they even exist is below the bare minimum. Below the bare minimum. That's like the very least I could ask of somebody who wants to have a relationship with me. It's so funny to me that people act as if that's too big of an ask. That's way too big of an ask. Sorry you won't gaslight me into thinking that asking somebody who wants to have a relationship with me, not only that, but somebody who wants my eternal soul, that it's too big of an ask to show me that they even exist in the first place. I don't think they realize how insane that is. And I've said stuff like that to people before, and they're like, no, it's still ridiculous that you would ask for him to prove himself to you. No, it isn't. No, it isn't at all, actually. It's really freaking hard to have a relationship with someone who you aren't even convinced is real. The fact that that is seen as an egotistical request is just, it's wacky. It's cuckoo to me. Like giving you my eternal soul on one hand, asking you if you even exist. Asking you to show me that you even exist, and then me giving you my eternal soul. These things aren't equal. It seems like a pretty fair ask to me. The bar is in hell when it comes to the standards of this relationship. Once again, it's the thought-stopping cliche of it's God, he can do whatever he wants, and it's good, and no matter what, it's fine whatever God does. There's no standard at all for God ever. And this includes in relationships. They essentially expect you to be okay with having a one-way relationship for your entire life. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, number 4. Why make your only form of communication so incredibly unclear? And before Christians say it is clear, Janet, no it isn't. If it were, we wouldn't have 50,000 denominations of Christianity. Also, so many Christians say to me, it's so clear, and then every single one of them says something different about a Bible verse, and then they're like, but it's so clear. Obviously it's not, if you're all reading the same thing and getting different messages from it. And then each and every one of those people are like, actually, my interpretation is the correct one. It's like, okay. Sure. But seriously, this is your only way of communicating to us, and you choose to do it in the most unclear way possible. That's pretty crazy to me. Why wouldn't you want it to be clear so people couldn't, number one, they couldn't use your book to do awful atrocities that they have done all throughout history. Why, if you don't want people to, misrepresent you or do awful things in your name, why not make it so clear that there isn't any confusion there? Shouldn't clarity be the top priority for this? It seems like a pretty big deal that so many people have been killed in your name, right? And so many awful things have been done in your name. Instead, you make it so unclear that people can essentially make the Bible say whatever they want it to say. I've seen it so many times. They just say that it's their specific interpretation. And a lot of these conversations I've had, they typically say things like, oh, I just read it and I had the Holy Spirit, so I know that what I read was correct. Well, what about everybody else who says they had the Holy Spirit in them and they understood it in a different way? It doesn't make any sense. Now, how is that supposed to mean anything to anybody? I don't think it's not going to work. Why not write it yourself so there are no issues like this? To me, it seems such an extremely simple task you could have done to make sure there was no confusion. Seems like a pretty simple task for an all-powerful God that would have saved so much suffering, so much misunderstanding, and so much misrepresentation. You'd think for a text that is telling you how to live your entire life, who you are as a God, and about the afterlife and everything, you'd want it to be something everyone could understand the same. That seems like it should be a top priority to me. Also, what about people who can't read? In the past, now, how are they supposed to have accessibility to your only form of communication? That seems odd to me, to not make it's accessible to everyone. That doesn't seem to give many people a fair chance at discovering who you are, right? It seems like some people are automatically put at a disadvantage. I'm sure an all-knowing God could have seen that obstacle coming, that, like, an all-knowing God would say, there are going to be so many people throughout the world, throughout different points of history, that aren't even able to read, that don't have access to this book. Maybe I should do something about that so everybody has a chance to know the truth and who I am. Now we're at number 5. I'm not going to talk about this one too extensively because I feel like I mention it a lot, but I still wanted to include it, which is, why is the alternative to believing in you going to heaven? Why is the alternative to believing in you and going to heaven burning in hell for all of eternity? Why are there only those two choices? That is whack. I say this all the time, but if you created the system, if God created the system and everything, then you would have to assume he is the one, God, you, is the one who created the system. And again, for people who always say, well, he originally made hell for Satan and his demons, not human beings. But if a God is an all-knowing God, that simply doesn't make sense. If you're an all-knowing God and you make hell, there is no an original purpose. You made hell knowing exactly what you would use it for, because you are an all-knowing God. So saying I originally made it for this purpose and then thought, hey, it's here, why not do it for this as well? Doesn't make any sense for an all-knowing God. On top of that, let's not pretend like it would be hard to just create a new system. Like, people act so often, it's so bizarre. They act as if, oh, well, he originally made hell for this, and since it's already here, like, why not throw people in there too? Huh? What? Like, why wouldn't you even consider making a different system than that? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, you would only send people to hell if you thought they deserved to go there, unless you're an unjust God. Like, none of this is adding up. And we are acting like that wouldn't just be again, for an all-powerful God, it would be the most simple thing for him to do. It wouldn't take any effort. But if I had a partner who said, hey, be in a relationship with me, or I'm going to throw you into this burning house, and then say, it's your choice. You have free will. You make this choice. We would call that abusive, because it is. We know that it is. Again, comparing this to any other type of relationship, you can see how disturbing and messed up it is. Also, to me, it's the equivalent to the free will we would have if a person held a gun to my head and said, you have the choice to either give me your money or I'll kill you. Well, that isn't much of a choice now, is it? The actual definition of free will, when I look it up, doesn't even fit the right definition that Christians go by when it comes to free will. So, when I see the definition of free will from Oxford Languages, which has always been the one that popped up first for me, is the power of acting without constraint of necessity or fate, the ability to act on one's own discretion. Which, yeah, if there's a threat of hell, then that is acting based on fate, no? Right? It's acting based on fate. If you have the threat of hell against you, and you're told to make a choice between the two, just like a person holding a gun to your head, do you really have much of a choice? The other option is death or suffering or whatever, like extreme suffering, violence, whatever. that's not even the definition of free will. There's a reason why if someone had a gun to their head and they did end up giving up their money, you wouldn't say, well, you had the free will not to give it to them. Like, why didn't you just not give it? Like, huh? What? That's just crazy. That's why we wouldn't even describe describe the choice as being an option, the other choice being an option if it's something like extreme violence or torture or whatever. We wouldn't describe that as free will in any other situation. But again, because this is God, there's no standard at all. Because this is God, we just have to accept this abusive behavior and say that it's good because he could never possibly do anything wrong. So listen, I know it might sound extremely abusive, but he's God. So it's okay. And I think this is obviously, in my opinion, a tool to use against people. Fear is a powerful tool, and I always say this, and this is a common known thing, that fear is a powerful tool used in religion over and over and over again. And I personally very much believe that Christianity would not be as popular as it is today, and certain religions wouldn't be as popular as it is today if if fear just wasn't used. It's an effective tool to use against people. Powerful people know this. Manipulative people know this. It's just a known fact that it is the most effective tool to manipulate people to stay in line. That can be either to join the religion, to not leave the religion, to not speak out against the religion, etc. Okay, so those are basically the only ones I wanted to mention, but I did have some fun ones, last but not least, but kind of least. I have a couple of unserious things to ask. Well, one of them is serious. Why would you make hippos so cute and make them certified killers? That seems unfair, to make something so aggressively cute but simultaneously make that animal want to crush my head like a watermelon. That wasn't very cash money of you, God. I don't appreciate it. Number 2, why did you take Steve Irwin away so early? Low-key, it feels really disrespectful to me that you didn't at least let that man live until his 60s, yet you kept Donald Trump with us into his 80s so far.
This shit nasty. What in the Peter Piper picked a peck of motherfucking pickled peppers is this shit?
That is really not cool. That is very messed up. I don't appreciate that. I actually resent you for that. That is, that's not cool. But I will end this fake conversation with a compliment. And the compliment is, you really ate when you made guinea pigs. I love guinea pigs so much. They are so cute. They make the cutest noises. They bring so much joy to my life. And I will let you have that. You really did cook with that. You left no crumbs. I love the guinea pig. So, thank you. I appreciate that one in this fake conversation. Anyways, that's all for me. I could go on forever, but I gotta stop it somewhere. I'm sure I will make videos in the future of me listing other things because there are definitely more things I would love to say / ask. Let me know in the comments what you would say to God or question if you came to face to face with God. It doesn't matter if you're atheist, agnostic, Christian. I would love to read your answers. It doesn't have to be serious. It could be serious. It could be funny. It could be a question. It could be a statement. Whatever. I just really enjoy reading through you guys' comments and hearing what you have to say, what topics you bring up, and I don't know where you're at with things, what's most important to you, or what you think about. It helps me get a feel of who you guys are, and I just think it's really fun to read through your comments. And I know I don't respond to every comment because it's hard for me to, but I promise you, I pretty much read all of you guys' comments. But yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you're taking care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next one.